Your sister needs stability. You work remote. Move out. That's what my mom told me. So I kept quiet until they came home and found the eviction notice taped to the front door. You know that feeling? That absolute gut punch moment when your entire world gets ripped out from under you, not by some random tragedy, but by the very people who are supposed to love you unconditionally? Well, that was my Tuesday night, the night my own family tried to steal my life right out from under me. The story begins, it was a Tuesday night late. 8:47, to be exact. I finally dragged myself through my apartment door after what felt like the longest, most soul-crushing day in recorded history. Client calls, design revisions, endless meetings about UI changes that, let's be honest, absolutely nobody needed. All I wanted was a scalding hot shower and maybe some leftover Chinese takeout, the kind you eat straight from the fridge. My keys, heavy with exhaustion, slipped from my fingers. And then, the phone rang. Rosalind. My mom. Her voice was different. Flat. Like she was reading from a script she'd rehearsed 1,000 times. And the words she read? They hit me like a physical blow. Your father and I have decided. Sloan is moving back to Asheville. We need you out of the house by the weekend. That 4-bedroom house is hers now. My keys clattered to the hardwood floor, a metallic sound that echoed in the sudden, terrifying silence of my apartment. It felt like the sound of my life shattering. I gripped the doorframe, certain I'd misheard something fundamental. Something crucial. I'm sorry. What? You heard me correctly, Mom said, her tone sharpening with that familiar edge of impatience she always used when I dared to question her decisions. Sloan needs stability. A place to start her family. You work remotely. You can live anywhere. My mouth opened, but no words came out. The house. The one I'd saved. The one I'd been restoring for 6 years, room by room, weekend by weekend, paycheck by paycheck. The house where I'd been living to help them with expenses and maintenance because they'd claimed they couldn't manage alone. My voice came out smaller than I intended. The house I saved? The house I spent the last 6 years fixing. An irritated sigh filled the silence from the other end. Sloan is engaged, Rosalind. She needs stability. A place to start her family. You're single. You work remotely. You can live anywhere. Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Those words hit like ice water. I heard Dad's weak murmur in the background, some half-hearted agreement that sounded more like surrender than support. Arthur Moore, the man who taught me to change a tire and balance a checkbook, reduced to background noise in his own life decisions. 72 hours, Mom continued, businesslike now, almost clinical. We'll arrange for supervised removal of your belongings. Nothing belongs to you except your personal items and work equipment. Then the line went dead. I just stood there, staring at my phone screen, Mom's name still glowing, hoping it might magically transform into someone else's. Someone who wouldn't just erase 6 years of my life with a casual Tuesday night phone call. A memory crashed over me like a cold wave. I was 22, walking into their kitchen with my diploma, summa cum laude, pride burning bright in my chest. Finally ready to show them I'd made something of myself. Good, Mom had said, barely glancing up from her crossword puzzle. Now you can get a job and help with the bills. 1 week later, my sister Sloan, 18 and invincible, wrapped their Honda around a telephone pole after some party. I'd expected consequences. Maybe a lecture about responsibility or defensive driving classes. Instead, Dad's worried sighs. She's just so impulsive. We need to get her a safer car. No anger, no accountability, just immediate plans to purchase a newer vehicle with better safety features, funded by my parents' increasingly desperate finances, while I started my first real job and handed over half my paycheck for family expenses. That was the pattern. Rosalind the workhorse. Sloan, the precious, fragile child who needed constant protection from the consequences of her choices. 6 years ago, they came to me, weeping about tax debt and emergency repair costs. The roof leaked, the kitchen faucet barely worked, the heating system belonged in a museum. They couldn't afford the repairs. They might lose the house. We hate to ask, Dad had said, his voice breaking with what seemed like genuine shame, but could you move back home temporarily? Just until we get back on our feet. temporarily turned into permanently. My savings account drained systematically. $110,000 invested in kitchen renovation, roof replacement, plumbing overhaul. I transformed that rotting structure into something beautiful, something solid, something worthy of the neighborhood it sat in. Meanwhile, Sloan posted photos from Austin. Party pictures, restaurant reviews, weekend trips to San Antonio. When we'd ask for help with expenses, she'd laugh it off with practiced ease. "Oh, Rosie, you're so good at that stuff." "I don't know anything about bills." "Good at that stuff." Like financial responsibility was some quirky hobby rather than basic adult functioning. My phone buzzed. Sloan's name appeared on the screen before I could even process what was happening. "Hey, Rosie." Her voice practically bubbled through the speaker. "Big news. I'm coming home. Can you make sure my old room is cleared out by Friday? I need space for my fiancé. And oh, just leave the big TV in the living room, okay?" I love that one. The 70-inch television. The one I bought last Christmas after saving for 3 months. The one I researched for weeks, reading reviews and comparing prices, because every dollar mattered when you're funding an entire family's lifestyle. The blood drained from my face. The room tilted slightly. "We'll talk when you get here, Sloan." My voice sounded strange, too controlled, like it was coming from someone else's body. "Perfect. See you Friday." She hung up before I could respond. I slid down the doorframe until I was sitting on my hardwood floor, keys scattered beside my feet like fallen stars. 6 years of sacrifice. 6 years of putting my life on hold, turning down promotions that required relocation, avoiding serious relationships because family needed me. And now? Now I was being discarded like last week's newspaper because Sloan decided she wanted to play house. My fingers found Genevieve's contact information without conscious thought. Jen Hayes. My best friend since college and the sharpest real estate attorney in Western North Carolina. If anyone could make sense of this legal nightmare, it was her. "Rosalind? What's wrong?" Jen's voice cut through my panic immediately. She always knows when something's catastrophically wrong. "My parents just gave me 72 hours to move out of the family house. They're giving it to Sloan." Silence. "Then, the house you've been restoring?" "All of it. All of it. 6 years, $110,000 of my own money, and they're just handing it over like I never existed." "Wait." Jen's voice sharpened with professional intensity. "Your grandmother, Estelle. How exactly did your parents inherit that house? Was it a will? Or a trust?" I realized with a jolt that I didn't actually know. Family financial. Arrangements were always presented as adult business, too complicated for children to understand. Even as an adult contributing to household expenses, the ownership structure remained mysteriously vague. "I don't know," I admitted. "Do not talk to them. Do not text Sloan. Send me every piece of paper you have, insurance documents, utility bills, anything with that address. I'm going to the county records office first thing tomorrow morning." For the first time since that horrifying phone call, something like hope flickered in my chest. "Jen? Yeah? What if they're right? What if I'm just being selfish?" A pause. Then her voice, steel strong. "Rosalind. Selfish people don't sacrifice 6 years of their lives to save other people's houses. Send me those documents. We're going to figure this out. Wednesday morning." The sunlight filtered through my apartment blinds like it was trying to apologize for yesterday's devastation. I'd been awake since 4, staring at the ceiling, replaying Mom's clinical tone as she erased 6 years of my life. My coffee tasted like cardboard, but I drank it anyway while organizing every document I could find with that house address. Insurance papers scattered across my kitchen table. Utility bills dating back 3 years. Maintenance receipts. The folder grew thicker as I dug deeper, evidence of a life I apparently never owned. Jen called at exactly 9:15. "Rosalind, there's a problem." Her voice carried that tight frustration I recognized from court days gone wrong. "Your parents, acting as trustees, filed to seal portions of the trust documents right after Estelle died, citing family privacy. They're actively hiding something. I need a judge's order to unseal it. It's going to take me 24 hours. The words hit like cold water. "Sealed?" Why would they seal anything? Because whatever's in those documents doesn't support their version of events. People don't hide good news, Rosalind. They're covering something up. 2 days felt like 2 lifetimes. Every minute felt stolen. I paced my apartment in circles, wearing a groove in the hardwood between my kitchen and living room. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, showing a half-finished user interface design that seemed utterly meaningless now. How do you focus on button placement and color schemes when your entire life is unraveling? A memory surfaced without permission. Grandmother Estelle, 3 years ago, sitting in her favorite chair during what turned out to be her last Christmas. I'd brought her tea, and she'd grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "That woman sees dollar signs, not family," she'd whispered, glancing toward the kitchen where Mom was complaining about the cost of holiday groceries. I'd brushed it off then. Estelle was 87, and her comments about Blythe had grown sharper over the years. I thought it was just old age, making her cranky about her daughter-in-law. But now her words carried a weight I never recognized. Estelle had watched Blythe for decades. She'd seen patterns I was too close to notice. More memories flooded back. Estelle taught me to balance a checkbook when I was 12, because a woman needs to understand money, sweetheart. Estelle insisted I learn basic home maintenance, showing me how to fix a leaky faucet and change a car's oil. "Independence isn't just about having your own place," she'd said. "It's about not needing anyone to take care of you." Had she known this day would come? Had she been preparing me for a war I didn't even know was brewing? Thursday morning arrived like a sentencing hearing. I'd barely slept, my mind spinning through every possible outcome. Maybe the documents would show my parents were telling the truth. Maybe I really was just the ungrateful daughter who needed to step aside for Sloan's happiness. But something cold and calculating had taken root in my chest. If they were innocent, why seal the documents? Why hide behind privacy claims when the truth should speak for itself? My phone rang at 10:30. Jen's name on the screen. I got it. Her voice shook with a fury I'd never heard before. "Rosalind, they have been lying to you for 6 years." The room tilted. I gripped the kitchen counter, preparing for whatever bomb she was about to drop. Estelle didn't trust Blythe. She placed the house in a living trust. Arthur and Blythe were named trustees with the right to live there, but the trust explicitly stated that on your 30th birthday, 2 years ago, full unencumbered ownership transferred automatically to you alone. The words didn't compute immediately. What? You own that house, Rosalind. You've owned it for 2 years. They've been lying to your face while living on your property. My legs gave out. I slid down the cabinet door until I was sitting on my kitchen floor, phone pressed to my ear while my world reshaped itself completely. But the debt, the $110,000 they needed help with. Jen's voice turned deadly quiet. That $110,000 debt? It was a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. They took it out after your 30th birthday. This is bank fraud, Rosalind. They borrowed money against your asset, an asset they didn't control, and they made you pay it back. The magnitude hit like a physical blow. My parents didn't just lie about ownership. They committed a federal crime while making me fund their fraud. Every monthly payment I'd made toward that debt was money stolen from my pocket to pay for their theft. I'm not the ungrateful daughter, I whispered. You are the victim of systematic theft, Jen said firmly. And we're going to make this right. You are the legal owner. Do not move a single pillow. It's your house. Defend it. Something fundamental shifted inside my chest. The crushing guilt that had been with me for 24 hours evaporated, replaced by crystalline clarity. I wasn't selfish for wanting to keep what was mine. I was the target of a carefully orchestrated con that had been running for years. What do? I'm canceling my afternoon appointments. We're going to war. Within an hour, Jen had mobilized like a general preparing for battle. A 24-hour locksmith service contacted for emergency key changes. Legal documents drafted. Eviction notice and restraining order templates ready to file. A bank fraud report prepared with HELOC documentation attached. Security consultations scheduled to prevent physical confrontation. The locks get changed this afternoon while they're out, Jen explained, spreading papers across her conference table. Then we will deliver the eviction notice tomorrow when Sloan arrives. Clean, legal, and impossible to argue with. That afternoon, I drove to the house with hands shaking from adrenaline rather than fear. The locksmith van followed behind me, tools and new hardware ready to secure what was legally mine. The house looked the same from the outside. White siding, which I'd pressure washed last spring. The front porch, which I'd repainted in careful coats. Gardens I'd maintained for 6 years, weeding and planting and nurturing growth that my parents claimed as their own. But walking through the rooms felt different now. This wasn't their house that I'd been helping to maintain. This was my house that they'd been occupying while lying to my face. The kitchen where I installed new cabinets and granite countertops? My kitchen. The living room with hardwood floors I refinished myself, working evenings and weekends until my hands were raw? My living room. The 70-inch television. Sloan wanted to claim? Bought with my money, installed in my house. Everything belonged to me. Everything. I gathered only what truly mattered to me, my laptop, legal documents Jen needed, photos of grandmother Estelle. The expensive furniture, the television, the appliances I'd purchased over the years. Everything stayed exactly where it was, secured inside my property. 3 hours later, every lock in the house had been changed. New deadbolts, new window locks, new security codes for the garage door. The locksmith handed me a complete set of keys that felt heavier than they should. Property secure, ma'am. No one's getting in without these. I stood in my kitchen, holding the keys to my house, feeling the weight of 6 years of lies finally lifting off my shoulders. Tomorrow, when Sloan arrived expecting to claim her prize, she'd find locked doors and legal papers explaining exactly who owned what. My phone buzzed with a text from Jen. Documents filed. Tomorrow we take back what was always yours. For the first time in years, I smiled without guilt hiding underneath it. Friday morning arrived with Sloan's Instagram story blazing across my phone screen. An airport selfie, bright smile, designer luggage arranged artfully in the background. Ready for my new life. Asheville, new beginnings, home again. The hashtags felt like tiny daggers. I screenshot everything before she could delete it later. Evidence. Jen taught me that yesterday during our strategy session. Document everything, she'd said. Every lie, every manipulation, every moment of their entitlement. Build the case methodically. My phone exploded at 11:23 a.m. Rosalind. Sloan's voice pierced through the speaker so loud I had to hold it away from my ear. What the hell? I can't get in. The key doesn't work. Did you change the locks? I took a breath. Counted to 3. Yesterday, this call would have sent me spiraling into panic and apologies. Today felt different. Clearer. The locks were changed for security reasons, I said, calmly. Security reasons? It's my house now. You can't lock me out of my own home. Her own home. The house she'd never contributed a single dollar toward maintaining. The house she abandoned 6 years ago without a backward glance. We'll discuss this when I arrive, I told her. The line went dead. Immediately, my voicemail notification chimed. Blythe's voice, shaking with fury. How dare you lock us out of our own home? This is elder abuse, Rosalind. We'll have you arrested for this. You've lost your mind. Another message. Arthur's guilt-soaked whisper. Your mother is having chest pains from the stress you're causing. Is this really what you want? Your grandmother would be ashamed. Grandmother's guilt. Their favorite weapon. But something had shifted inside me since Jen read me those trust documents. Grandmother Estelle wasn't ashamed. She protected me. She saw this coming from miles away. I called Jen, putting her on speaker while I organized the evidence folder one final time. Police reports. Trust documents. Bank statements. Screenshots. Everything chronological. Everything labeled. Everything ready. You sound different, Jen observed. Stronger. I feel different. Like I'm finally awake after 6 years of sleepwalking. The police are meeting us at the house in 30 minutes. Civil standby, just like we discussed. They'll keep everyone calm while we serve the eviction notice. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't the one trying to keep everyone calm. I was the one setting boundaries that required enforcement. The drive to the house felt surreal. My hands remained steady on the steering wheel. No tears. No wavering. No last-minute guilt spirals about family loyalty. Just calm determination and a folder full of legal documents that told the truth my parents had been hiding for 2 years. I turned the corner onto Maple Street and saw them immediately. All three clustered on the front lawn like refugees from their own poor choices. Arthur pounding on the door. Blythe pacing frantically. Sloan standing with her arms crossed, luggage scattered around her feet like evidence of her premature victory celebration. Mrs. Linda watched from her front porch across the street, phone in hand. Good. Let her record everything. I parked at the curb and stepped out just as Jen's BMW pulled up behind me. 2 patrol cars arrived simultaneously, their presence transforming the neighborhood drama into something official and serious. Ma'am? Officer Rodriguez approached me first. You're the homeowner? Yes. Rosalind Moore. These individuals are attempting to enter my property without permission. Blythe whipped around, her face flushed with indignation. She's lying. We live here. She's having some kind of breakdown and changed our locks. Ma'am, step back, please. Officer Rodriguez moved between us smoothly. Professional. Calm. We'll sort this out. Jen emerged from her car carrying a leather briefcase, like a weapon of mass legal destruction. She was dressed in her courthouse armor, charcoal gray suit, low heels for stability, hair pulled back severely. When Genevieve Hayes means business, you can see it from 3 blocks away. Mr. and Mrs. Moore. Jen's voice carried across the lawn with courtroom authority. This is a formal eviction notice. You have 24 hours to arrange for supervised removal of your personal belongings. You are no longer permitted on this property. Arthur sputtered, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and dawning panic. You can't do this. We're her parents. This is Rosalind's house, per the Estelle Moore Living Trust, a trust you violated when you fraudulently obtained a $110,000 home equity line of credit against property you did not own. The number hit like a physical blow. Sloan's face strained of all color, her Instagram-perfect composure crumbling in real time. A helic? A trust? You told me the house was yours. You said Grandma left it to you. Sloan, calm down, Blythe snapped, but her authority was evaporating by the second. This is a misunderstanding. No. Sloan's voice cracked. This isn't a misunderstanding. You lied to me. About everything. Mrs. Linda's phone remained pointed in our direction, capturing every moment of this public reckoning. Blythe noticed and stormed toward her. Stop recording. This is a private family matter. Ma'am, Officer Thompson intercepted her smoothly. You need to remain on the public sidewalk. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Blythe, unhinged and screaming. Arthur, deflated and mumbling excuses. Sloan, discovering her entire future was built on lies. Meanwhile, I stood quietly beside my attorney and 2 police officers. Every document legal, every action justified, every word measured. Mrs. Linda's recording would show exactly who lost control today. And it wouldn't be me. Jen handed Arthur a manila envelope. Police report for attempted trespassing. Bank fraud report filed with both local and federal authorities. Your attorney can contact my office to arrange belongings removal. This is insane. Blythe hissed, but her voice lacked its usual commanding edge. She's manipulating you all. Rosalind's always been unstable. Officer Rodriguez checked his notes. Ma'am, according to the legal documents, this property belongs to Rosalind Moore as of 2 years ago. The individuals attempting entry have no legal standing. The words settled over the scene like concrete. No legal standing. After 6 years of emotional manipulation and financial exploitation, the truth finally had an official voice. Sloan stared at her luggage scattered across the lawn, her engagement ring catching the afternoon sunlight. My fiancé is flying in tonight. What am I supposed to tell him? Tell him the truth, I said quietly. For once. The group dispersed slowly. Arthur loading Sloan's suitcases into their car with mechanical movements, like a man sleepwalking through his own nightmare. Blythe shooting venomous looks in my direction, but keeping her distance from the officers. Sloan sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead with the shell-shocked expression of someone whose entire worldview had just imploded. Mrs. Linda waved from her porch as they drove away. Honey, I got every second of that. Later that evening, sitting in my apartment with takeout containers and legal paperwork spread across my coffee table, I finally let myself feel the weight of what happened. Not grief for the lost relationship with my parents. That died the moment Blythe delivered her 72-hour ultimatum. I grieved for the 6 years stolen through systematic manipulation. For the woman I was before I learned to doubt my own worth. For all the opportunities one declined because family needed me. I opened my journal and wrote, I was never the problem. I was the solution to their problem. Jen called at 9:30, her voice warm with satisfaction. Federal banking regulators confirmed they're investigating the Helic fraud. Criminal charges are possible. What happens next? I asked. That's up to you. We can pursue maximum legal consequences, or we can negotiate a settlement that gets you out quickly and cleanly. The choice is entirely yours. For the first time in 6 years, the power sat in my hands. No manipulation. No guilt. No family obligation. Just legal documents and righteous anger, and the freedom to choose my own future. My doorbell rang at 10 p.m. Mrs. Linda stood in the hallway holding a plate of homemade cookies, her eyes bright with excitement. Honey, I thought you should know. I've been posting that video everywhere. Facebook. Neighborhood groups. Next door. Your mother's been calling my house for 3 hours, begging me to take it down. She says it's going to ruin them. She handed me the cookies with a conspiratorial smile. Sometimes the truth needs a little help spreading around. I watched through my window as Mrs. Linda's porch light illuminated her phone screen, still sharing the video. Public accountability begins organically. Social media justice serves the consequences my parents spent years avoiding. Tomorrow, I'd decide whether to pursue criminal charges or accept their surrender. But tonight, I'd eat Mrs. Linda's cookies and watch my family's lies crumble under the weight of their own contradictions. The foundation for future victory was already set. All I had to do was choose how complete I wanted their defeat to be. Sunday morning brought the first wave of what I quickly realized was a coordinated assault on my reputation. The phone started ringing at 7:30, just as I was settling into my first cup of coffee with the weekend crossword puzzle. Uncle Robert's voice carried that particular blend of disappointment and authority that only comes from being the eldest Moore brother. Rosalind, your mother called me last night. She's absolutely devastated. Says you've turned cruel, locked them out of their own home. What's gotten into you? I set down my coffee cup with deliberate care. Uncle Robert? Did Mom mention the $110,000 they borrowed against the house after it legally became mine? Or the 6 years I spent restoring it with my own savings? Silence stretched between us. I could practically hear his certainty crumbling through the phone line. She said there was some misunderstanding about paperwork. Bank fraud isn't a misunderstanding. The line went quiet for several long seconds. When Uncle Robert spoke again, his voice had lost all its edge. I'm sorry, honey. I didn't know. 3 more calls followed the same pattern. Aunt Patricia from Charlotte. Cousin Michael from Raleigh. Each conversation started with accusations and ended with apologies once I mentioned the trust documents and the Helic fraud. By noon, I was documenting every interaction in a spreadsheet, noting names, times, and exactly what lies my parents told each relative. Jen called while I was updating my notes. How many family members have contacted you this morning? 5 so far. They're working through Mom's entire phone book. Good. Keep documenting everything. Every lie they tell creates more evidence of their pattern of deception. Jen paused, and I heard papers rustling. I've been busy too. Arthur tried to file something at the courthouse yesterday, claiming he never relinquished trustee authority. The clerk's office called me this morning, laughing. Laughing? Apparently, he brought a handwritten letter stating his intention to resume control of the trust. The clerk explained that trusts don't work like library books. You can't just return them when you're done. I actually smiled for the first time that weekend. What did he say? According to my source, he asked if there was a form he could fill out instead. Monday brought a different kind of assault. Blythe appeared at my apartment complex around lunchtime, sitting in her sedan in the visitor parking area. She didn't approach my door or call my phone. She just sat there, occasionally dabbing at her eyes with tissues, clearly hoping neighbors would notice her distress. Mrs. Patterson from 3B knocked on my door around 2 o'clock. "Honey, there's a woman in the parking lot who says she's your mother. She looks so upset. Are you two having some kind of fight?" "She's trying to manipulate you into feeling sorry for her," I explained calmly. "She committed bank fraud and is facing the consequences. I'd appreciate it if you didn't engage with her." Mrs. Patterson's eyes widened. "Bank fraud? Oh my. The police are aware of the situation. If she continues loitering, they'll ask her to leave." Sure enough, Blythe's card disappeared within an hour. Tuesday afternoon, Jen forwarded me a screenshot from Arthur's church directory Facebook page. Someone posted a prayer request on his behalf. Arthur Moore and his family are going through a difficult time with a family member who has turned against them. Please keep them in your prayers as they navigate this painful situation. The responses revealed exactly how their strategy was backfiring. Instead of sympathy, several church members mentioned Mrs. Linda's video, which had apparently made its way through multiple community Facebook groups. Saw that video of them demanding entry to that young woman's house. Didn't look very Christian to me. If that's how they treat their own daughter after she helped them for years, what does that say about their character? Praying for the daughter, she showed remarkable composure under attack. By Wednesday, I was getting calls from people I barely knew expressing support. A former coworker whose sister lives in Asheville mentioned seeing the video. My dental hygienist's cousin lived 3 streets over from the house and witnessed the entire confrontation. The story was spreading like wildfire through interconnected social networks, and the version people were hearing consistently portrayed me as the victim, not the villain. Thursday brought the most desperate. Move yet. My phone rang with an unknown number displaying the Asheville Police Department prefix. "Miss Moore, this is Officer Jenkins. We received a report of possible elder abuse involving your parents. The caller claims you're financially exploiting them and preventing them from accessing their home." My stomach dropped for exactly 3 seconds before Jen's training kicked in. "Officer Jenkins, are you familiar with the Hellick fraud case involving Arthur and Blythe Moore that was filed last week?" A pause. "Let me check my notes." Papers rustled. Yes. We have that file. And you're the victim in that case." "That's correct. My parents are apparently trying to file false reports now." "I see. Well, we'll be closing this elder abuse report immediately, and I should mention that filing false police reports is a misdemeanor offense." "I understand. Will my parents be informed of that?" "They will indeed." Friday evening, Sloan called for the first time since the initial gloating conversation. Her voice sounded strained, lacking its usual buoyant confidence. "Rosie, we need to talk." "I'm listening." "Brad broke up with me." The words came out flat, defeated. "He said he can't marry into a family with this kind of drama and financial instability. He saw the video online." I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I just felt tired. "Mom and Dad promised this was all going to work out," Sloan continued, her voice cracking slightly. "They said you'd never fight back. That you'd just accept it like you always do. They miscalculated. I lost my job too. My boss said having my personal drama going viral reflected poorly on the company image. This caught my attention." "What job?" "Marketing coordinator for that boutique hotel chain. They fired me Monday after the weekend explosion." Sloane's breathing sounded shaky. "I don't have anywhere to go, Rosie. I gave up my Austin apartment. I spent my savings on the engagement ring upgrade and wedding planning deposits. For 28 years, this would have been my cue to fix everything. To sacrifice whatever was necessary to rescue Sloan from consequences she'd created for herself. The old Rosalind would already be calculating how to help. The new Rosalind recognized manipulation, even when it was wrapped in genuine desperation. Sloan, I'm sorry you're facing difficulties. But those are consequences of choices you and our parents made. I didn't create this situation. So you're just going to abandon me? I'm protecting myself from people who tried to steal my house. That includes you." Sloan hung up without another word. Saturday morning brought unexpected vindication. Mrs. Linda called to read me a voicemail Blythe left on her home phone at 11 p.m. Friday night. "Please, Linda. You have to take down that video. It's destroying our family. People are treating us like criminals. Arthur had to resign from the church board. I can't show my face at the country club. Please, I'm begging you. What did you tell her? I asked. Mrs. Linda's voice carried unmistakable satisfaction. I told her that criminals generally are treated like criminals. And that seemed appropriate. She called again after that? 3 more times. Each message more desperate than the last. The final one was just crying. As I hung up the phone, I realized something had fundamentally shifted. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix a crisis or manage other people's emotions. I wasn't the one making desperate phone calls or crafting elaborate justifications. I was the one sitting calmly in my apartment, drinking coffee, watching my former family's carefully constructed facade crumble under the weight of their own lies. Every manipulative move they made only proved my case more thoroughly. They'd turned their greatest weapon against themselves. Social pressure, community reputation, family guilt, all the tools they used to control me for years were now destroying them instead. Justice, I was learning, sometimes arrives quietly, through the simple act of telling the truth and refusing to be moved by lies. 3 weeks passed like a chess match where I finally knew all the pieces on the board. While my parents scrambled to rebuild their narrative, I organized my evidence with the methodical precision that made me good at UX design. Every document sorted chronologically. Every photograph dated and labeled. Every text message screenshot preserved with metadata intact. My phone rang Thursday morning while I was reviewing bank statements for the 3rd time. Dad's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring twice before answering, savoring this new sense of control. Rosalind. His voice sounded older, more fragile than I remembered. I think we've all made mistakes here. Can't we work something out? Families should forgive each other. I heard Mom's urgent whisper in the background. Tell her about the medical bills. Dad, what medical bills? A pause. Then the practiced vulnerability crept into his tone. Your mother's been having chest pain since this whole mess started. The stress is killing her, Rosalind. We just want to come home. The old me would have crumbled instantly. Guilt would have flooded through me like ice water, drowning every logical thought until I agreed to whatever they needed to make their pain stop. But 3 weeks of clarity had rewired something fundamental in my brain. The house isn't your home anymore, Dad. It's mine. Has been for 2 years. Silence. Then Mom's voice, close enough to the phone that I knew she'd grabbed it from him. We hired a lawyer, Rosalind. A good one. He says we have grounds to contest the trust. Undue influence. You manipulated your grandmother against us. My heart didn't skip a beat. Jen prepared me for this exact threat. What's your lawyer's name? David Richardson. Richardson and Associates. He specializes in estate disputes. I wrote it down, though I didn't need to. Jen had already researched every estate attorney in the region. He's reviewed the case? He's very confident, Mom said, her voice gaining strength. Estelle was 91 when she changed that trust. Vulnerable. You lived with her for 6 months before she died, filling her head with lies about us. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I lived with Grandma Estelle for 6 months, yes, because she'd fallen and needed help with daily tasks while she recovered. I'd taken an unpaid leave from my first design job, sleeping on her couch and driving her to physical therapy appointments 3 times a week. I see. And you're demanding what, exactly? Sale of the house with proceeds split equally among the 3 children. It's only fair. 3 children. As if Grandma Estelle had 3 grandchildren instead of 2. But Mom always counted herself as Estelle's child, despite 30 years of barely concealed mutual dislike. I'll have my attorney contact Mr. Richardson directly. Rosalind, please. Dad's voice again, probably wrestling the phone back. We don't want to hurt you. We just want what's rightfully ours. I disconnected without another word. Within an hour, Jen called back. She was laughing. Actually laughing. David Richardson withdrew from the case, she said. Professional courtesy call to my office. Apparently, after reviewing the evidence package I sent over, he advised your parents that pursuing litigation would expose them to serious criminal liability. What evidence package? The one I prepared last week. Comprehensive documentation of every claim they might make, with counter-evidence. Your grandmother's mental competency is thoroughly documented through medical records right up until her death. The trust creation dated 4 years before you ever lived with her. Your parents' hellic fraud creates potential federal charges. 6 years of financial records proving you were the sole investor in property improvements. I sank into my desk chair, overwhelmed by the thoroughness of Jen's preparation. She anticipated their moves before they made them. Richardson told them their best outcome from litigation would be criminal prosecution and massive legal fees. Worst case, federal prison time for Arthur and bankruptcy for the whole family. So it's over? Not quite. I think it's time for you to make them an offer they can't refuse. 2 days later, we met in Jen's conference room. The space felt deliberately formal, all dark wood and legal diplomas, designed to intimidate. Mom and Dad arrived 10 minutes late, looking smaller than I remembered. Sloan wasn't with them. According to Mrs. Linda's neighborhood intelligence network, she'd returned to Austin after her engagement fell apart. Her fiancé learned about the family's financial chaos through social media and decided he wanted no part of our drama. Arthur's hands shook as he sat down. Blythe's makeup couldn't quite conceal the dark circles under her eyes. 3 weeks of public humiliation had aged them visibly. "Thank you for coming," Jen said, sliding a document across the table. Settlement agreement. Very straightforward terms. Dad fumbled with his reading glasses while Mom scanned the pages with a growing alarm. "This is outrageous," Mom said. "You want us to pay you $110,000? Reimbursement for the hellic fraud," I said calmly. "The money you borrowed against my house and made me repay. And this no-contact clause," Dad added, his voice breaking slightly. "Permanent estrangement from our daughter? Consequence of your choices," Jen explained. "The alternative is criminal prosecution for bank fraud and continued civil litigation. We estimate your legal costs alone would exceed $200,000, assuming you avoid prison time." I watched my parents process their complete powerlessness. For the first time in my life, they couldn't manipulate, guilt, or bulldoze their way to what they wanted. The legal system didn't care about their tears or Arthur's weak protestations of good intentions. "We need time to consider," Mom started. "No," I replied. "You sign today or Jen files criminal charges Monday morning. The FBI takes bank fraud very seriously." Arthur signed first, his signature barely legible through the tremor in his hands. Mom held out longer, probably calculating some last-minute angle, some emotional leverage she hadn't tried yet. But Jen's evidence folder sat open on the table between us, thick with bank statements and legal documents that transformed their lies into provable crimes. She signed. "One more thing," I said as they prepared to leave. "The house sells next month, 60-day listing period. When the sale closes, you'll receive a check for your portion after the $110,000 reimbursement is deducted." "Our portion?" Mom asked. $0, I clarified. "But I wanted you to see the final number, what you lost by trying to steal from me." They left without another word. Through Jen's conference room window, I watched them walk slowly to their car, moving like people who'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. "How do you feel?" Jen asked. "Free," I said. And for the first time in weeks, I actually smiled. 2 days later, Mrs. Linda knocked on my apartment door with her tablet in hand. "Honey, you need to see this." She showed me her Facebook post. The video of my parents' meltdown in front of the house had been shared 847 times. The comments stretched on for pages, mostly from other people sharing their own stories of family financial manipulation. "Your mother called again this morning," Mrs. Linda continued, "begging me to delete it, says it's ruining their reputation at church." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That the truth has a way of spreading all by itself. And that reputation is something you earn, not something you deserve." That afternoon, I drove past my old church. The parking lot sat nearly empty despite Sunday service being in session. Arthur's name had been quietly removed from the board of directors sign. Their social circles had evaporated like morning mist. The house listing went live Monday morning. Jen's real estate contact predicted it would sell quickly given the neighborhood and recent improvements. For bedrooms, completely renovated kitchen, new roof and plumbing. All the work I invested over 6 years finally paid dividends. But money wasn't what mattered anymore. The house represented something much more valuable: Proof that I wasn't the ungrateful daughter they painted me as. I was the woman who saved a family home, who invested her youth and resources into something bigger than herself, who deserved better than betrayal disguised as love. 3 weeks from now, when the sale closes, I'll write them a final check for exactly $0.00. Not out of spite, but out of simple mathematics. They stole $110,000 through Helic fraud. The house will probably sell for around $285,000 after real estate costs. Simple subtraction leaves them with nothing, which feels like perfect justice for people who gave me nothing but years of exploitation wrapped in family obligation. I drove home to my apartment, windows down, mountain air filling my car with the scent of freedom. 6 months later, I signed the final paperwork at Jen's office. The house sold for $320,000. After real estate fees and closing costs, $285,000 sat in my checking account, money that belonged entirely to me. The apartment lease I signed last week felt like signing my own Declaration of Independence. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, and a view of the Blue Ridge Mountains from the kitchen window. No family photos guilt-tripping me from the mantelpiece. No constant reminders of 6 years spent as someone else's solution to their problems. Just peace. How does it feel? Jen asked, watching me fold the settlement documents into my purse. Quiet, I said, and realized it was the perfect word. My mind was finally quiet. Friday evening arrived with the first dinner party I'd hosted since this whole nightmare began. Jen brought wine and her infectious laugh. Mrs. Linda shuffled through my front door carrying a plate of chocolate chip cookies, the same recipe she'd been making for 40 years. Linda settled into my kitchen chair with a satisfied sigh. She always said you were the only one in that family with a spine. We ate takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, the one I discovered during those first lonely weeks of apartment hunting. Nobody mentioned Blythe's manipulation tactics or Arthur's pathetic enabling. Nobody asked whether I felt guilty about choosing myself over family harmony. This kitchen table held only laughter tonight. Mrs. Linda pulled out her phone, scrolling through the comments on her viral video, still getting messages from people sharing their own family stories. You started something bigger than you know. I didn't start anything, I said. I just stopped accepting the unacceptable. Later, after Jen and Mrs. Linda left, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my journal. The leather cover felt smooth under my fingers, unmarked by tears or desperate late-night scribbling sessions. I wrote, I spent 30 years confusing love with sacrifice. Real love respects boundaries. The real family celebrates success, not exploits it. The words flowed easily now, no more second-guessing every thought, no more wondering whether my feelings were valid or selfish or ungrateful. My phone buzzed. Text from a colleague at work. Coffee tomorrow? I need advice about something with my family. I'd become the person others turned to when they needed permission to protect themselves. Jen referred clients dealing with similar family fraud cases, calling me their inspiration story. When people shared their struggles with manipulative relatives, I listened without judgment and shared what I learned. Boundaries aren't walls that keep love out. They're gates that let the right kind of love in. My therapy sessions with Dr. Martinez had evolved from crisis management to growth work. We talked about building friendships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. About recognizing red flags early instead of explaining them away. About the difference between helping someone and enabling their dysfunction. You've stopped apologizing for taking up space, she observed last week. That's significant progress. Saturday morning routine had become sacred. Coffee first, then journal writing on the balcony overlooking the mountains. The sun rose over peaks that had stood unchanged for millions of years, while human drama played out below in all its temporary intensity. My phone chimed with a text from Mrs. Linda, holiday potluck next weekend. Would love to have you join us. 6 months ago, declining would have triggered hours of guilt and self-doubt. Now I responded easily, thank you, but I'm creating new traditions this year. Have a wonderful time. No guilt, no lengthy explanations, just honest communication delivered with grace. The morning light shifted across my coffee cup, catching the steam in golden wisps. I pulled out my journal for one final entry. I thought family meant sacrifice. Grandmother taught me family means protection, protecting each other's dreams, dignity, and autonomy. Some people are related by blood. Others are related by choice. I choose my family now. Below, the city of Asheville stretched toward distant mountains, full of people navigating their own complicated relationships with love and loyalty and the courage to choose themselves when necessary. My phone stayed silent. No emergency calls about family crises that somehow required my immediate financial intervention. No guilt-laden voicemails about how my selfishness was destroying everyone's happiness. Just silence. And sunlight. And the profound satisfaction of a life finally lived on my own terms. The mountains remained unchanged, eternal witnesses to human struggles that resolve themselves when we finally learn the difference between love and manipulation. I am free.